employees do. And so I guess my biggest concern is what's going to happen when the first parent comes to drop off their child at 6 o'clock in the morning for before care, and there's nobody here because they don't have jobs anymore. So that's what I would like to know from anybody who knows. What is the plan for the board to do on February 2nd?
Billy Hill again. I asked that question back, I believe it was on the 22nd of December in the conversation I had with a board member, and was told the concern of people that I spoke to was, tell us what the transition plan is. How are we going to go from where we are to where we want to be? And provide facts on these actual $350,000 a year savings that it's going to produce. Yesterday, I asked that question again as a follow-up, and I was told that our attorney told the board not to release that information.
Really? Get rid of her.
Which to me, should be a big concern of not just Chrissy, but everyone here, is that, and we may support it if we know what it is, but the unknown is what a lot of people fear. Me too. What's going to happen if they're in fact gone? Who are these people? They have a CAM, and this may be a job that requires more than a CAM, especially more than what we've had in the past, like somebody with 1 or 2 years or no years experience, or somebody that took the test, passed their CAM, but they've never actually practiced those skills. We don't need to go back to that. We've been there, that's a mistake we already made. But to say that you can't share the information with the members, that's another thing that just, it ain't right, folks.
Really, I don't recall seeing anything being told to me that the attorney said that.
I'll clarify.
The attorney suggested that during a transition,
Excuse me, how do you know what the attorney suggested?
because I was told by a board member.
Okay, but I'm on the board, I wasn't told that one.
Maybe you should have asked her.
Thank you. Transparency.
My understanding in the contract is that employees that were at Holly by the Sea prior to First Services are grandfathered in. So there are currently 14 employees that were grandfathered in that will have jobs on February 1st. The other employees that First Services brought in, we can retain, but if we retain them, we have to pay 30% of their annual salary to First Services, not to the employee. So there has to be some decisions about whether they're going to be retained or not. But we do have 14 employees that will be here.
35?
Well, how many were there before First Services, okay?
30.
All right. I'm giving you the information that I have. And unfortunately, these two board members are giving you that information because they were invited to participate in the transition plan and they've not. How many times, Rebecca, has Alex asked you to participate in something, but you had someone from out of town, or you had this going on, or you had that going on, and the answer was no? And I was sitting there hearing it, so I know. Okay? Yes, it is interesting.
Many times.
Yes. Anyway, the advice was given is that there is so much twisting and there are so many things being said and taken out of context that sometimes the safest comment to make is no comment. And that's what we were advised. And that's what the attorney advised Alex Crawford. It's just for now no comment because it's getting twisted. If you want to get out there and say something, go ahead and say it, but it can get turned around and it can get taken out of context. And that's what my husband was referring to when he spoke to you yesterday. Now, we have since had a little bit of a conversation, my husband and I, and we decided, you know what? You want to see the cost savings? Right here. Everyone take a copy.
Someone once told me I'm very diplomatic, but I'm about to lose my diplomacy. We should not have to be married to a board member to get information.
Thank you.
These two board members should not ever have to ask for information. They should be included in every correspondence that is sent between
I asked,
A
that's how
board-
I found out.
I should not have to be married to your husband to get information. I have asked Allie Crawford for information before, and you know what she has told me? Well, we can't really give it. How the hell are we supposed to know what's going on when they don't give us information, and then they say, well, according to the attorney, we shouldn't give information because that's misinformation. You know what? If it's factual information, they need to provide it. And they need to tell us what is going on, because I'm sure you know the HR company that they're wanting to hire.
No, I don't.
Do they know it?
I don't know.
I don't know it,
I don't
but
know.
I guarantee you Ryan Miller,
No, I don't.
Bill
think they
Crouch, and Alex Crawford know.
do. I don't think they do.
They should provide that information. Somebody knows because it's on the agenda for Tuesday. Alex Crawford, when she came in, according to what was put out, she told the staff, emails that go to board of directors that is supposed to go to all 5 members doesn't happen anymore. They go to me. She's not the gatekeeper. She is not a dictator. She is the board director. She is the president of the board who leads the board. It is not her decision. It is not what I want. And if it's not what I want, I'm not listening to anybody. That is not what we live in, because I'll cite 720. They represent us, and we have a right to discuss anything that is on that agenda. And she has said at a meeting, after it was told by Kelly, after he cited it, well, I'll take that under consideration. She's not giving us any information. And to Mr. Dean's point, the decisions that they make, 3-2, 4-1, whatever it is, that holds us liable. And I don't want my assessments going up because we have been sued by the EPA, or we're paying fines, or whatever it is, or sued by First Services or whomever it is because of decisions that they made. So I really wish that your husband was here, because for him to put out on Facebook due diligence when no one knows who that company is that they're going to be discussing and motion to approve, what is that?
I don't know. You have to ask him.
Well, you know, you come up here and you say we. I don't know who we is. You know, are you on the board? And this is not a personal attack, but you have stood up here and said we. You have information. And I feel like as a member, do I need to come and have dinner with you and sleep in your husband's bed so I can get that information? It's not right.
I just wanted to be clear. So what you said before is that the board is not, that the board is not planning on paying the fee, and that
I don't
the
know if
only
they are or not.
employees that we have, that we're gonna have, are the 14 employees.
I don't know if they're planning on paying it or not. I have no idea. I'm not on the board.
Okay, but you did make that statement.
That is an option. That is an option. By contract. That is in the contract.
Well, it's hard to come back up here after that exchange. But I wanted to say a few things, Mr. Dean. I wanted to address a couple things that you said specifically. Thank you, everyone that came here. Some of you may be like me and you've got jobs and kids, and so you hear something and then you get involved. To stand up here and say we should have been to every board meeting. When they voted FSR in, I was involved in listening and seeing and thought it might be a good thing because it was different from what we had done in the past. Now I'm hearing there's this radical change. I wasn't really aware of it, that they were going to vote on it like they did, okay? So I'm involved now, and I'm guilty of not always being involved as I should be. I'm involved now because I'm hearing very bad things. And so for you to stand up here and kind of chastise some of us that aren't always at every board meeting, we watch, we read, we see things, but you can't pay attention to everything. So when we hear something bad is going on, where there's a major change, like again, when we were originally voting FRS in, I recall reading it, looking through it, considering both sides of it and thinking, I better listen a little bit more. Now I'm hearing that we've already fired them and I never even had time to think about it. Too bad? Too bad. Okay, so that's what I thank everybody for being here. I know, again, different levels of where we are in life, different levels with our kids, different levels of jobs. Too bad. Thank you. Okay, that's the attitude that the people that from the board are not here have. Too bad to Scott Schellenbarger because I wasn't paying attention to every single thing. Okay, I accept that. So the other things I wanted to talk about, I'm concerned because I've heard, I believe you said that Ryan Miller has been absent for 3 meetings, or he's been not physically present. According to our bylaws, if they are not present for 3 meetings, they consider it a vacancy. Now, he's on the phone, and I understand sometimes people have stuff. You know why I've never ran for board? Because I have a traveling job. I can't always be here, okay? So I stepped down, I don't do that. If somebody's going to be on the board, they should be here sometimes. If he's been absent for 3 consecutive meetings, according to our bylaws, he is considered vacant.
Regular meetings.
On the phone once in a while, but that's just my opinion. It's what it says. I read it just now. Just think about that, okay? He can't be here and that important of a decision. Anyway, so the other thing I have a concern about, I can't be here on Tuesday for the other meeting, but I want everybody to think about this if you're like-minded like me. There's a number of things on the agenda about the website. We should not give control of our website to a board member.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
No way. Would you give control of the press to the government? It already is, but another. So anyway, the last thing I really wanted to say was I was curious as to why our members, if the statement has been made that we know who we're going to hire as the manager, are you aware of it? Why are 2 of our 5 board members not aware of something that has allegedly been said? That tells you there's secret personal stuff going on. There's a personal agenda. It is clear that the president of our organization has a personal agenda against Alex, against FSR. It's very clear from the statements that have been made, from the way things have been done. I saw, Mr. Dean, you have someone post some things for you. You're talking about things that happened before FSR was even here. That's misinformation. We need to have these open forums. We need to have an open forum. We need to be able to discuss this before the decision's made, like the lady before me said. And I'm sorry, too bad for me that I wasn't involved. I appreciate that. That's the attitude of the board of directors without the 2 that are sitting here included in that. That's their attitude. They represent too bad for the members who have a life and kids and a job and everything else. Too bad for you.
Hello, Pete Petersing, 2861 PGA. Been in Holly by the Sea since 2002, and I'm going to claim that I've probably been to 90% of all board meetings in those 12 years, whether regular or special, maybe only 85%. I want to go over the continuity issue. I think is the biggest problem. There's not much we can do about the board. By our bylaws, they're elected for 2 years. Half of them change over every year. We've had 5 resign that were elected to the board. 5 resigned from the board in the past year. 3 from the previous board and 2 from the previous board resigned last February-ish or so, and February, March, and then 3 resigned within a month of the summer elections.
A week.
Well, it wasn't made widely shared with some of the membership. Took a little longer, but within the end of the month, or certainly by August. So there's no continuity on the board. I mean, it changes over every year, and sometimes more often than that. Currently on the board, we have 3 people that never ran for office, never were elected. They're appointees. 2 of them here and Mr. Crouch. But more than the lack of continuity with the board, review the history. I'm going back just to 2002, not to 98 when it was handed over by the developer. But we had a CAM who quit because the board would not listen to his advice. He said, you know, if you're not gonna follow my advice, I'm not dead. So we were self-governed. Then we had an in-house trainee done. Then we were self-governed again. Then we had a part-time hire, Bob Fowner was in here. He said, well, the board's not listening to me. No reason for me to do my expertise. And we were self-managed again briefly. Then we had Paul Williams. Then we had in-house Wendy Hoflith. Then we had Jenny Barrett, first here, and then we had her retained with First Service. Hopefully with some additional training and oversight and guidance, because she had no experience. And then issues happened with that, and we now do have a general manager that has the credentials, has a few years experience. But that's like basically a change in management every year for 12 years if you count the 3 or 4 periods of self-management. And here we're going to change it again. It takes a new manager a year or two to address everything that needs to be addressed. And I'm just concerned about the lack of continuity. Again, that being said, I'm not optimistic that the way things are going, we're going to fix it. I can discuss at length the process we took that led to hiring First Service, because that was on my watch on the board, and I'll discuss that at length. But it was a year-long process that got us from Wendy's resignation, over a year, to hiring the First Service, including looking at a lot of options. They're fairly public, and some of you have seen that. So the lack of continuity is my big concern here, because 2 things. One, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. And here we're going to go do the same thing over and over again, change management again. The second thing is we need to look at ourselves as an association. I figure if, on a personal level, if somebody had, the association is the same, and a lot of the members of the association are the same, but we keep changing management. If you can't keep a relationship with 7 or 8 different significant others in a row, it's maybe not the significant others. It's maybe us. Okay, and then the last thing I want to say, it was said, if you got a problem with not in compliance with 720, make a complaint to the state. That's, I'm assuming they're talking about the DBPR, Department of Business and Professional Regulation. Bear in mind that at least my legal briefings and 3 board trainings that I went to, DBPR does not regulate homeowners associations the way they do condo associations. Condo associations pay a per door fee, $7 or $8 a year, Alex may know, that goes to DBPR to fund their personnel to enforce 718. That does not exist for 720. 720, DBPR, you can take something to it and say, we don't have the manpower, we don't do it. There's only a couple of things in the law that they will do. That's resolve disputed elections, and I think that's the only thing I can think of. But they will not get involved because homeowners associations aren't helping fund them. Now I do know, what was a couple of years ago, the state legislature started collecting information on homeowners association. Who's your management, how many members, what's your budget, that kind of stuff. I don't know where that's going to, but I do know personally that I'm going to lobby my state representatives, having watched what's going on in Holly by the Sea for 12 years, that they bring homeowners associations under the guise of DBPR the same way as condo associations, so that when there is an allegation of impropriety, DBPR is then obligated to come in and investigate it and adjudicate it. So that's where I'm going on that one. I wish it luck. I've given a lot of years to try to improve things here in Holly by the Sea, but it's not going anywhere.
I don't know if this is working. I wanted to say something just to make sure it's clear. I think before when somebody was speaking about the payroll human resource companies, they think that the one being selected is a foregone conclusion. I just want you to be to understand that I do have a copy of all 3 quotes from 3 different payroll companies, payroll human resource companies. But having said that, I'd also like you to know that each one of them was based on a different amount of from what I could tell from reading them, they're based on a wage base. And each one of them based their quotes on different wage bases. I meant to bring the numbers with me. I thought I'd scribble them on a sheet of paper in case it came up, and that's why I was fumbling around here. apologize, Pete, while you're talking, I was trying to find them so that I can tell you specifically what each one was. But I just wanted you to know that. I just wanted to be clear. I do have a copy of the proposed bids from 3 payroll and human resource companies. I think what the young lady was talking about was she was basically implying, is this another one where it's a foregone conclusion who's going to get it? Okay, and again, they were each based on a different wage base.
Does Rebecca have those quotes as well?
I do. Yeah.
And how was that advertised?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. How was it advertised?
Yes, ma'am. You said you have 3 quotes, so did one person call 3 different companies, or was it advertised in the paper that you're looking for an HR company? Was it?
Well, to my knowledge, I would say possibly Bill, she may know this better than me.
I don't know, that's something you have to ask them, I have no idea.
Either Bill Crouch or Alex Crawford, I would say probably called them up and asked.
Because if I wanted to select one, then I could keep calling until I found 2 that were hired.
Well, yes.
Without it being an open bid.
Yes, I would imagine that's correct.
That's happened a lot here in
I'm just saying. Disclosure's a good thing.
It would be great. Cheaper.
I gotta bring this down because I'm really short. My name is Sarah Markham, and I'm gonna say first of all, so please understand, I am a renter here. However, I have attended all of these meetings in the back to be quiet because I may or may not choose to purchase in this area. My husband is active duty military, so we may be here for 5 years, we may not. That being said, the second that I got here, I got involved. I am part of several committees, and I was asked recently, because nobody else wanted to volunteer, to be on the ADA chair and to look to see what could be done to help, our area for disabilities or anything like that. I am not personal friends with anybody on the board. I've met the board members through different activities. I've been part of a lot of the social committee events. So I know everyone, but I'm not personally for this person or that person. I do pay a rent, so I have the ability to use all of this. But what has bothered me the most is I have volunteered out of the kindness of my heart. I have no bone in this dog race, okay? I have no say in it. However, I've recently been told on one of these Facebook pages that I am no longer allowed to be on any committees because it may affect the membership. Well, the ADA committee, a lot of these little committees that are going on are not secretive or to do anything. I volunteered because nobody else in the membership wanted to do it. I did it because I felt that getting pull lifts or doors where people who couldn't walk in because they're in wheelchairs was important. Why? Because I spent 2.5 years in a wheelchair, and I find that it's very important for everybody, whether they're paying rent or they're paying their dues, to do that. And to be told negatively that I can affect you guys by doing research for you really bothered me. I have been allowed to be on what they call the closed Holly by the Sea website that there's all this negative talking about. And honestly, it sounds like my children. And I hate to say that. But as an outsider who is trying to enjoy where my children are growing up, because I have no say in where they're going right now, the government does, I want them to enjoy the area. And when I have adults that are acting worse than my 6-year-old child and being disrespectful and hateful to each other, come on, we're adults, you guys. Let's just talk to each other respectfully. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't have to sign up for any committee. I don't have to be here on my Saturday. I could be with my family doing fun things, but I'm giving up my free time to be here because, you know what, maybe I would like to be a member of this community when my husband retires in 5 years? You know, I want to know what's going on if I'm going to put my money into this place and my kids are here. We come here. I have not seen very many people that are here involved in stuff. We've had so many good, fun things like the Christmas thing, and I volunteered my time with no money of my own personal just to be here to help this community, and you guys just can't seem to put the pettiness behind. If you're not going to have an open website where it's only members, nobody that are renters, or like you guys have basically stuck a line between, well, you're not a member because you're not paying dues. Well, technically I'm paying for my person that is paying the dues because I'm paying my rent. So even though I'm not really having a voting say, I'm giving my time, and I'm here when I don't need to be here. So what I'm asking is either if you're going to have one of these Holly by the Sea representative web pages, that it can be a little bit more civil, because the disrespect is ridiculous. I don't care whose side you're on. And I know there's a lot of money, but to be, I mean, this morning I got on because I wanted to see if there was any information about the meeting that I may need to know. And religion got brought up between people. And I'm like, are you kidding me? How immature is that? Can you guys just say, I don't agree with this? If I can't come to the meeting, maybe we should do what, I don't know if this is possible, but we just got all those letters in the mail from the water thing, and you could do your proxy. I understand that there's not people that can go everywhere. I have 3 children and a husband that's active duty military, and he's gone a lot. So I can't come to every single thing, but how hard would it be to send out the paper for proxy for members to vote and be like, I can't be there, but this is my vote. This is what I want. Because, like they said, not everybody can be here. And my other thing is if there are people that want to volunteer, whether they're like members or renters like I am, this negative stuff is pushing everybody away. Because I don't have to be here. This really has nothing to do with me financially. I mean, my rent can go up, which would totally suck, but just, I wanted to be on that website because I want to know what's going on in the community that my children are being raised in. And we follow all the same rules that the Homeowners Association gives because we have to. So even though we don't have a voting say in it, I still think that things should be civil, and if you're not allowed to be a volunteer, then that needs to be said, like, to the member or to the renters ahead of time, because I've put in time and research of my own to help this area, and then to be told on a Facebook page kind of negatively, well, sorry, we don't want you helping because that's going to affect us in the long run. That kind of doesn't want me to buy into this community, and that really sucks. So I just ask that you guys keep it civil, because if it has Holly by the Sea name, fine. Then that's something that anybody, whether you're a member or you're in California, if you put Holly by the Sea, that's going to come on there and people are going to see it. And unless you're checking addresses, you don't know whether or not you can accept them on the page. People are getting negative information about this area because of this closed group. If I would have read this prior to getting here, I wouldn't have rented here, because it's very childish. And I've taught school, and some of the way that you guys talk to each other is just ridiculous. I've never been so embarrassed to read some of the stuff on Facebook as I have been. I just ask that you guys be civil. If I'm giving my free time to help to do things for you guys, then maybe you guys should care a little bit more about stuff and be respectful to each other.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
I say, in agreement with what the last lady said, and I think I kind of said earlier, I'm not sure I was clear enough, and I have no dog in this fight, and as far as board members, I guess the one I know the best is probably Rebecca, known each other for a long time. I think it's more important to listen to each other than it is yell at each other, because if you're yelling, you can't hear. And I think that young lady had, I read the newspaper and I couldn't believe all the negativity. I'm like, is this really what we're about? And people ask, they're like, that Holly by Sea, we're a joke. We're a joke. I mean, people look at all of that hatred as saying, thank God I don't live there. Okay? That's sad. That's a reflection of you all, and me. And I don't think it's right to continually poke people and continually put bad news out there about the neighborhood you live in. I mean, that's really pretty bad. And I just wish all of you would have a more open mind and listen to each other instead of having hatred, because that's only going to spoil it. Thank you.
Hello, Bob Bauer from Treasure Street. I only have 3 adages I want to share that basically reflect my position on all this. And one is, I think we're being penny wise and pound foolish. And the thing is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe First Service isn't doing all that great, maybe they are, but I think this was a rash decision that we weren't invited to. Yeah, I could have been at that meeting, but First Services was never on the agenda, so I didn't show up. So, if we could, I would like, as we said in the old days, I'd like a do-over. If the board can revoke that decision and let's do this more deliberatively and let us all be involved, I would highly favor that. That's all.
I have one additional thing that I would like to say, and some of you may choose to comment on this. It was December 2nd when the board gave the severance of the contract notice to Mr. Dan Buckner. That was a pre-prepared letter. I have seen the letter. It was not dated, and the signature was not signed. The board president's name was there, but it was not signed. First Service General Counsel, an attorney, sent an email to all board members, I believe it was yesterday, and the letter basically stated that the terms of the contract were not followed for this severance. And what that letter from General Counsel from First Service states is that the terms of the contract must be followed. So, what does that mean? When the board makes a decision, and if they decide that indeed they do want to cancel the contract, that means that they have to follow the information in the contract that we have for the method to submit the cancellation. So the clock will start if that letter goes out properly following the contract, dated, etc. Then the clock will start on the 60 days. So basically what we have been given by First Service attorney is a statement that the contract was not followed, and in order for the contract to be severed, we must follow it. Anybody want to comment about that?
So the clock hasn't started yet?
No.
What did our lawyers say?
I don't know if our lawyers have seen it.
So there is hope we can make a better decision and have a plan.
I believe you might be correct.
What wasn't followed? It wasn't signed. The letter was not signed or dated when it was mailed off, or
It was handed.
It was handed to the First Service Senior Vice President with our letterhead, not signed, no letterhead, not dated, and not signed by Mrs. Crawford.
Because we're professional.
So the process, the termination process was not formally.
The termination process was not followed appropriately.
I'd just like to re-emphasize what Yvonne Harper said. It's not that First Service is all that great, that they're doing everything that we ask them to do. It's the whole process that they went through to terminate First Service. We had two boards working 2 years with town hall meetings going on almost every single month to get the members' input, to find out what the members want, if they wanted a management company. We went, and the board before me, we went with what the members wanted. The members expressed a desire to have a management company come in because we felt we were too big to do it on our own. We did what the members wanted. In 2 months, this board, minus these 2 members, threw all that away. In 2 months, they never had a town hall meeting, never asked any of the members, what do you feel is best for the association? So in 2 months, they come in and throw away 2 years of research, asking the members what we wanted. They did not engage in any town hall meetings. They put it on the agenda. They voted without even these 2 members knowing what was on the agenda. That's my objection. The whole process, they never ever asked any of us what we wanted. I'm not saying First Service is doing everything right. Why not address the things that we want and that they can fix? Just like Pete said, we need consistency. We do not have that. We have tried over and over and over again to get a CAM in. We can't do it alone.
In the words of Mr. Dean, too bad for us.
Hi, Pete Peterzane again. Addressing the process to get to a management company, I want to give a little history because I was involved in that. I was elected to the board on a Saturday and learned that the existing GM had resigned Friday. And the only thing we left was we did have Jenny Barrett, who had a CAM license but 0 experience, though she knew some of the corporate memory because she'd been working in-house, I see, for 5 or 6 years. We advertised widely on appropriate professional websites and stuff like that, and for a experienced licensed CAM to be a general manager. We think I got about 8 total applications. Half of them were like, I'm not a CAM yet, but I can probably study and take the test. 0 experience. So we left those out. We had a couple that, I just got a CAM license, but I'm really in real estate, but you know, I like to apply for the job. So we got rid of those couple. So now we're down to about 3 or 4 of the 8 people that even applied for the job after advertising it for 6 months. I'd have to go back to it. I know we went through an HR company for one thing. I don't recall the details, but it was out there in multiple sites for about 5 or 6 months to get down to that. So by the time we got around to where we had 3 people that maybe were qualified, they had license and some background, most of them not currently a CAM, if they are not currently a general manager, they'd been in the past. By the time we got around to interviewing, 2 of them already found another job. And the one we interviewed, after we interviewed them, declined our offer of a job. At that point, that's when we said, okay, that's not working. Let's look for a management company. And then we went from there because we could not get an applicant. Now maybe we didn't offer enough money. I mean, we were only offering 60 grand. And I've learned since then for somebody with the responsibility for this type of association this large, the market is probably closer to 90,000. It's a lot of responsibility for somebody, and especially if you want somebody that's maybe a PCAM, which is additional level of licensing, as well as we were looking for 10 years experience. I do know our in-house at the time, our interim kept asking, well, when are you gonna make me permanent? And our board's position was, no. You need oversight, or we need somebody with a lot more experience. I mean, she did as well as she could do, but she made mistakes. Ultimately, it led to her downfall with Holly by the Sea. Though, by the way, she is now got a general manager CAM position at a very nice condo, and they love her. I know some people that own in that condo and or work at that condo, so both from owners and stuff. Jane Bear's doing well there. They love her. And my question is, when in the past, may not be the best management that I would hope for, but can anybody point to when in the last 12 years and our 12 different managements, different people or self-managed on several times, when has the management been better? And I can't point to anything historical where it's been better. So I would move going forward to try to build continuity and stick with professionals. You know, I'd sure love to know who this predetermined person is and what their credentials are, but it's awful late to do that. And having lived through a no transition change back in the summer of 11, it ain't pretty.
Can you please give us just an idea of how many months you allowed, that process took, and that you allowed for public input, that the membership knew you were looking, you advertised it?
We had a lot of meetings. With the general manager, who was also our in-house accountant, resigned with basically no notice. It was a real scramble for the new board and Ms. Barrett, who again, did what she could, but it took us, even to get another higher accountant, it took us 6 months. And that was probably too long, but we were just trying to keep the doors open and get a budget done and pay the bills. But so I got through the budget, so maybe starting September we started advertising, closed it out in January, and we're trying to do interviews in January or February for an individual that was ultimately unsuccessful for whatever reason. And then that's when we said, well, let's look for a management company, but nothing was happening. I socialized with some people and at basically a function, and talked to our association lawyer, said, give me some names of management companies and what you think of them so we can go talk to one of them, just find out what it is they do, because none of us really knew what a management company did. And a name that kept coming up for this area when I was one-on-one was First Service. So I brought that one in, and then the board said, well, let's collect a couple more. So that was probably April or so, May, that we contacted First Service, looked at their contract. We then went out and looked at a couple other different types, 3. I'm sure there's others we could have looked at and looked what their package was. Discussion about whether they got the fair shake or not, but there was an awful lot of difference between the 3 of them in the style and their things. So for our board, we thought of at least those three, first service was best, it was the most comprehensive, and what we were looking for was comprehensive. So I don't think it was finalized until October, and I believe they started on 1 November of 12, yeah.
And you had the 3 companies come here at open meetings for us to interview them.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
So my point is during that process, everything was open.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, except, you know, the board members can go out and talk to people on their own, which is what I did to come up with the name of, at then the Continental Group was the name that was, you know, the biggest and best in the area. We asked for references, initially got 3 from here, and then we asked for some more references. I can't remember who it was wanted more references, so we got another 6, contacted those folks. Oh, that was, yeah, those 6. But yeah, the search between looking for a manager or a company took well over a year. Took well over a year. And then this is where we are. Am I completely satisfied with a lot of things of Continental Group and First Service? Not completely satisfied, but I wasn't satisfied with the previous 12 years or 10 years. And again, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different results, it's insanity.
Billy Neal again. I'd just like to end my comments with that one of the things that the group of property owners have done is that if you haven't seen it, there's a petition that's available at the front desk out there. There are several people that have copies here that was being presented to the board for them to, I'll read what it actually says. It says, we the undersigned in accordance with Florida Statute 720 are requesting the following item be added to the agenda of the regular scheduled monthly Holly by the Sea meeting 13 December 2015. A discussion and reconsideration of the Holly by the Sea Board's vote to terminate the management contract between First Service Residential and Holly by the Sea Improvement Association. Does not mean that you are for or against it. All we're wanting to do is to have the open discussion, facts and information presented that's validated that this is the smart decision for our HOA. So if you have not had to sign it, the opportunity to sign it, and you'd like to, like I said, there's a copy out front here, or you can see me and I'll make it available. Thanks.
I got a question about that. I signed it on the website. Are you guys keeping track? I mean, who?
That would be best.
Paper too, to be sure?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The answer is I'm keeping track of all of them.
Okay.
How many signatures do we need for that?
How many do we need? Well, if we go Florida Statute 720, there's a provision in there that says that if 20% of the voting interest petition the board to address an item, they have to address it at the next scheduled meeting. Or within 6.
Do you know what that number is?
Say again?
Do you know what
It's I believe it's 940.
924, something around there.
924, like 900 votes.
Do we know where
But
we are
it
now?
doesn't, the most votes anybody elected to office this past election process is 377. We have more than 377 votes. Now, the board, they can stand there and say, well, you didn't get the 20% or whatever if we don't make that. But then for sure, that's a display of they don't care what the members want. They're not even willing to discuss it. And this issue was raised at a meeting back on the 19th of December, and a member at that meeting went to the board president and asked the question just to reconsider it. And the response was, why would I do that?
What's the deadline?
I thought I saw in the agenda for this coming board meeting that was in the email that Alex sent about this meeting, that discussion was included.
The draft agenda is on there. But if you've attended some of the meetings here recently, what you'll find out is that the group of 3, if there's something on the draft agenda published by the secretary, if she and or those 3 don't agree with it, it's not addressed.
Billy, if I may add, the president has amended that agenda. She has changed the agenda and removed that item. And sent it to me to be posted.
She doesn't want to hear what you have to say. So please show up on Tuesday night and take control of the meeting. She cannot do something if we don't let her.
Does the president have the authority to pick and choose what goes on the agenda?
No.
No. What it takes
How
three.
can she remove something from a draft?
3 members of the board. I mean, she'll do it. She can do that. It's still a draft. That agenda is not official until it's voted on
At the board.
at the meeting.
But it should be changed at the meeting.
It should be changed at the meeting. It's like, you know, there was one published, and it's the same thing that she did in the past to get the discussion for first service on there. Is that the agenda was published, and then she decided she wanted to discuss this, so
Added
then.
it at the meeting.
Well, between the time that the draft agenda was published on a Friday and between the actual meeting on a Tuesday, she decided we want to discuss about it. So a lot of the members, you know, they may have seen the original draft that went out there. Me, I know that's what happened to me. I look at that agenda when it goes out as a draft and see. And there was no, I said, okay, they're going to talk about first service, but there's nothing to say we're going to modify the contract, we're going to do whatever.
So to remove it from the draft agenda, it takes 3 members to vote for it, right?
Yes.
It should, and if she did that, that means
Were you
that.
notified of it? On the draft agenda?
Why don't we get up here and speak so everybody can hear? In regard to what you're saying about the draft agenda, I'm the one that prepared the draft agenda, and I sent it to all board members, and I was told via email individually from each person, that would be our president, our internal and external vice president, that they did not want that particular item on the agenda.
I can vote.
This didn't occur at a board meeting. I was told this via email, and I chose to leave it on. I didn't realize until I just heard from our general manager that it's been removed.
Yeah, I received an email this morning with an amended agenda.
So you received an amended agenda not from our secretary who's in charge of doing the agenda?
Correct, it came from the president.
Wow. Damn.
Wow. My name's Kelly Smith from Olympia Street. I've been attending board meetings here since I moved. I'm also the chairman of the Violations Appeals Committee. I've been probably 95% of the meetings if I wasn't traveling. But I just want to draw attention to this unfactual document that was handed out, okay, about savings that we can see. I'm not an accountant, and I only took the same time that you guys had to look at this document. But savings for Facebook site and how everybody see news, it's going to be handled by our IT department. We don't have an IT department. But we're going to hire employees to save us money for an IT department. Okay, that's just one false number in there. The other one is about the pool maintenance contractor. We're going to cut that in half, a little more than half, by doing it in-house.
It was being done in-house before first service.
Okay, so we're gonna say we have to hire 2 new people or add additional duties to the already overburdened maintenance people. We only have what, 3 people, 4 people in maintenance to take care of the entire property? And they're gonna also add taking care of the pools, chemicals. You know how much hazmat training you need to have to be chemically certified to do pools? Commercial pools. You know, so please, take a look at this document, okay? I've only taken 20 minutes to look at it, and I've already picked out many things that are gonna cost us more money, and this is unfactual.
Can I look at that since I gave only all my copies? Couple of things I'll address, since I do know a little bit about this. When it comes to the IT, right now, we outsource a lot of the IT work that's being done. By having an internal person doing it, they can also handle marketing and a lot of other functions. So that will be a bit of an increase, but there will be other benefits that we get from that particular individual
Have you seen how
skill
much
set.
it costs for an IT person?
Yeah, my husband has experience in IT work. That's what he did
Yeah,
several
so
years ago.
the board is gonna do the IT? is what
No,
you're saying.
no, they will look for someone who
At
qualifies for that.
$100,000 a year probably, because that's what IT people charge.
Well, what we're looking at is someone with very basic.
We don't want basic. We want
Members of the
professional.
board that are involved in the transition plan.
You're not on
These
the
members have chosen not to be involved, so they would be pleased if they were
Excuse me,
involved.
Lucy, may I say something?
Well, not, I can't say it, Jan. Yes, say it.
Okay. I have done things that I could. I let Bill know that I know nothing about computers or software, and I couldn't help with that, did I not?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Yes, you
I've
did.
sent information on prior banking information and current information, have I not?
Yes, you have.
Yes, I have.
Yes, you
So
have.
I've done what I can.
Yes, you
All right,
have.
please don't.
I'm sorry.
Okay, here's the
I'm
thing.
sorry. I
Whether I'm
apologize.
directly
I just feel
involved
like
or
we're
not,
being attacked
I'm
here.
not.
I'm trying to give answers. I'm trying to help you understand some of the discussions, but I feel like I'm being attacked.
It should come from Crouch. It should come from
Okay.
We want Bill Crouch, we don't want a voice piece.
Can I finish, please?
Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, yeah.
Let Jan finish.
I'd like to make my point. Regardless of whether,
Louder, Jan.
regardless of whether a person on the board has done plenty or nothing in this regard, you still are on the board and need to be informed of what they're deciding to do, in my opinion. You know, I've done what I could. There's a lot of things here that they're trying to do that I'm not very much familiar with, and I've offered information or advice, if you want to call it that, where I felt I could. Okay, but I expect regardless to be told. If they already, I'd like to know how they went out now to see if they're getting a cam. I gotta tell you, I was afraid they weren't going to get one. So I'm kind of relieved that we're being told that they've already found somebody. You know, that contrary, you know, I can almost breathe a sigh of relief. But I just think, you know, we have a board member who happened to go through a change of jobs, and it's even more difficult for him now. But I would hope, in spite of that, in spite of the fact that he probably really cannot do too much, that they would certainly keep him fully informed. So to keep saying to Rebecca and I, well, we're not part of the team, that's the problem. They don't see us as part of the team. We're not supposed to be that kind of team. We're supposed to be independent thinkers, making up our own minds. And I think the big problem with this board is it seems to be wanting that to be different. This isn't a corporation that I work for, where the boss says, I'm glad for your opinion, Jan, I'll do what I tell you. It's not like that. I've offered what I could, and in spite of whether I can help or not help, I still, as a board member, or even members, need to know and be kept informed as to what's happening. Thank you, Lucy.
I'd like to address also, you've said that I have refused to be involved. I can tell you, I received an email from Mr. Crouch inviting me to go with him to a bank or meet him at the bank to determine what kind of return we could get on our money. The request came an hour and a half before the appointment. And my response was, I'm sorry, I need more lead time to be able to attend.
I think it's unfortunate that we can't have, I feel like I've just been personally attacked. And maybe I shouldn't have come. I thought that by being informed and providing information that I know I have as a homeowner, that you all would be interested in knowing. When it comes to the subject about the pool maintenance, what is in the maintenance budget, and I'm not sure how many of you realize this or not, but First Services will not allow employees to do certain things like use a chainsaw, like deal with the pool maintenance, like do painting on the outside of the building. So a lot of our maintenance work is outsourced. The estimate for this year alone was about $35,000. So, but prior to First Services, our employees did do those things. Now they don't, now that gets outsourced. So that's where that savings, when you see that in the pool maintenance. I just would like to say that, you know what, I'm all for continuity too. This is a really nice community that we live in. This is a great facility. This facility is part of the reason we chose to live in Holly by the Sea back in 1992 when we moved here. But do you all realize what we're paying for? First Services is costing us more than $47,000 a year. They are costing us a 25% labor burden, which is over $50,000, okay? They are costing us in the estoppel fees alone.
We don't pay those.
They get 20.
That's not correct.
Okay, it's revenue that's lost. It's revenue that's lost. That's $25,000, $25,800 a year they collect on average in estoppel fees from our homeowners association.
No.
That's more than what we get. Well,
and we get money back.
Yeah.
Is that following their contract?
What?
That's them following their contract?
It's in their contract.
Well, again, are you all aware of that? You're all okay with that? You all are okay with the fact that we only get 0.27% back on $3 million?
We were only getting 0.08 before.
Okay, but are we still satisfied with it?
That's a good thing. We're making more now than we were before.
But we can make more than that.
Yes, we can.
And I want to know what the difference is between the pros. The other thing, there's all this talk about insurance and how we've got all this money saved on insurance. Did you all know that our insurance coverage was reduced? And that's how we got it saved?
No.
Prior to First Services changing our insurance, we had over 20 structures out there that were insured. Do you know how many are insured right now?
None.
4.
I have something to say about that.
Okay, please wait till I say. That pavilion out there that we lost, that pavilion's gone. It was not covered. Prior to the switch in the insurance, it was. And you just say all you want.
As far as the pavilions, they may have been insured, but they were not covered because they weren't covered by fire, wind, or anything. So we were wasting money insuring them. That's why they were canceled. Back to the agenda. The agenda items. Per our covenants, Robert's Rules of Order is what we follow. Every member of that board has the authority to put anything they want on that agenda. The board president or anybody else doesn't have the authority to say you can't. Every one of them can put something on that agenda. When it comes to the meeting, then they vote on it as a majority. As far as estoppel fees were done before First Service ever got here. They were very low. Homeowner Association does not pay those. People that buy and sell houses pay that. First Service looked at what we were charging and what the average was in the area. They raised it to coincide with that. First Service provides a lot of information to realtors. That's why that fee is paid. That does not cost Holly by the Sea one single dime. It does not. It makes us money. So that is false. As far as the pool maintenance contract, when I was on the board, we reviewed that. It was found that it was cheaper to continue with the current contractor because they provide everything we need. They have all of the certifications. It was more economical to do. He comes here every day and tests the pools. Every day. If we have a problem, we call him. He is here in no time. As far as contracting out to other things such as tree trimming, using a chainsaw. Okay, fine. But if we have our employees do that, our workers' comp insurance goes way up.
Right.
You also have to have OSHA training.
Right.
Yeah.
Drivers training.
You guys, this cost savings plan isn't telling the whole story.
And nor are you.
I'm telling the facts.
You don't have it.
Yes, I do.
She's on the board, she does have facts.
Everything I said was
The
factual.
question was asked, am I happy with the percentage? I think what I'd be happy with is finishing an agreement that Holly by the Sea Association agreed to. I have been part of being a contractor out here at Holly by the Sea where not loud enough. I have been a contractor, working for HUD by the Sea. One of my companies was maintaining, this is 1 million square foot in this area right here. The entrance is the boat ramp. And I had 7 guys out here, about 5 days a week. I'm not sure how often the people that are in-house working, but as far as maintaining just the grass alone, we started cutting every 4 days because we have a lot of hay grass out here. It shoots up in 4 days, so I wasn't making a lot of money on this project, but I live here and I wanted it looking good. And I know there was a lot of inside agendas. The president at the time, matter of fact, the general manager at the time, Clay Vickers, man, he was awesome. Yep. He did the pool stuff. You know, I know that had to have been a savings, but our board ran him off, literally. I mean, I don't know if any of y'all were here when Clay Vickers was here. Yep. We had the president of the board who would call him, okay, Mr. Manager, you know. It was ridiculous, but I have been a contractor here that wasn't treated fairly. Matter of fact, when Hurricane Ivan came, I was in a candlelight meeting with 2 other board members that they were telling me I'm going to stop mowing and maintaining the property. And you got something to say, Patrick?
Yeah, that's what you say is not quite true.
Well, that's yeah, I'm not sure what you got to say about that, Patrick. I know you were here. Mm-hmm. But what they were wanting me to do, and I have it still on videotape if you want to hear it, Patrick. What they were wanting me to do was stop mowing the grass and start cutting trees down for the same price. I told them that I would do it for $20 an hour per man and use my equipment. So what they did was they tried to run me off the property. He sent police officers out here to get my guys to stop working, which was not criminal, it was civil. I had an agreement to be here. But you want to say something? You raising your hand? Go ahead.
He needs to come to the mic.
Yeah, come on, buddy. I'll step back.
Not a problem. When I said earlier about it sounds like 6 lights and videotapes. The truth of the matter is, this gentleman, myself, and I can't remember who it was offhand. We had a meeting with him. His contract was to cut grass. The hurricane came, threw lumber down, you know, and trees, and he said he couldn't cut grass. I said, well,
no, I did.
Yes, you did. You had your chance, and you'll get a chance to make that later. You said you wouldn't cut grass because there was too much debris on the ground. And then I said, oh, we can't pay you. He said, well, I want to cut the grass. I said, well, there's something else you can do. He said, well, I could cut trees. I said, well, I cut trees. He said, but I get $20 an hour. I'm like, nah. Either cut the grass, don't cut the grass, we won't pay you. That's up to you. And that's really what happened. And I hope he has that on tape.
You're a funny guy. You're a funny guy.
I know, that's what.
No, what it has to do with is we have a history of not treating contractors like we need to be treated. We need to let these folks finish out their contract and then hire somebody else. It's a shame that we can't treat the contractors that we agree with to let them carry out the actual contract that's agreed on. And I get paid $35 an hour. I said I would do it for 20. And then they held on to my money for 5 years before they paid me, and had my equipment and used it without my permission. Remember that, Patrick?
I had no knowledge of that, but if you say so, I'll have to believe you.
Can we end it?
Thank you all so much for coming. If you have additional questions, if you need any clarification on the slides or anything that was said, if you would email you can do it to the board of directors, or if you would choose, you can email me personally. Jan, how do you want to respond? Through the board?
Do you get
Does
it
it
to
still
the
go to
board?
the president only?
Didn't they change that so it goes to all of you now,
Yes, I
right?
believe that's been changed so that all 5 board members receive the question.
If you send it to the community website.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, now if you send it to the community website, all board members will get it. It is not filtered through the president.
Not anymore.
I want to thank all of you for being civil, for taking turns to ask.
I just got one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Jean Tashlik, I was a previous board member, and there are some things on here that I just have to address. And 2 of them are the pool maintenance contractor, and we looked at that. We looked into getting other pool maintenance at a cheaper rate with the chemicals, also the cutting down of the trees. Believe me, we investigated all of that, and we decided it was much cheaper to keep the pool maintenance as is. And I've been out here when we've had accidents in the family pool, and Jackie calls up our contractor. He's out here within an hour. He takes care of the problem, and I mean, I can't say enough for our pool maintenance, because he's Johnny on the spot. He takes care of it, and he has to superchlorinate. He's got all the chemicals available to him, and he takes care of it right then and there, and we're able to swim back within 4 or 5 hours. Otherwise, our people would have to go out, get the chemicals, get back, and they'd have to all be licensed. As far as cutting down trees, we have, Jackie has people that come out and take care of that almost on a moment's notice, that when we have problems. So our outs, believe me, we have looked into it. And your husband's only been on the board for 2 months, and he thinks he knows all this. He has not done his homework. I am sorry. If he had been coming, you'd been coming to all the board meetings, and he hadn't been into any of the board meetings prior until y'all asked for a special compensation to have your granddaughter come to the nursery. I hadn't seen his face in 2 years. Now all of a sudden he thinks he knows it all. He needs to do his homework. This is not an in-depth survey. It is not done. And believe me, the 2 boards previous to your husband being on the board has done their homework. We looked into all this, and believe me, if there was a way to cut corners, and First Service did an in-depth survey, manpower survey, have you even looked at that? Have you?
I asked for it. I have a copy of it. Would you like to see it?
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's right here.
I've seen it.
It wasn't a manpower study. It was just some, never mind.
Maybe you have the transition plan?
Save the best for last.
I have heard some of the discussions.
I wasn't going to talk. I wrote this down because I was going to talk, and then I wasn't going to talk because so many people have covered the things that I was going to say. But then John did this a minute ago, and he made me realize that this is pretty important. I'm an employee here. My name's Jackie Goebel. I live at 2028 Colby Court. I am the maintenance and custodial supervisor. I have worked here for 8 years, which is almost longer than anybody, and that's the biggest problem we have. No continuity. I've been through, get a load of this, almost 30 board members, 30 different people in the past 8 years, and 4 different general managers. Pete was right, we've had a few general managers, they were training on the job. And when they would ask, when I would see something that needed to be done out here, they'd say, well, get bids. Go get bids, get it done. If the board agreed, we did it. Alex Fanbray comes on and does my job now.
she does it right too. She gets the bids. She's done this before. I had done it before myself, but the general managers didn't have time or didn't know how or just put it in my hands. So I caught a little bit of flack from some people because I did things, but at least I did them. I did my best, I tried, the board agreed, they did their research. I always went out for 3 bids on every single project we ever had here, every one, and they were permitted. Since First Service came, we now, or at least I know that the other departments do too, but look, we have a training manual for the maintenance department. Safety issues, we have a meeting every single month. They've sent me to classes. I now know more than I ever did before in the past year since Alex came on board. Not just for services, but Alex. It's going to take her a while to get up to speed again because here we go again. We're talking about getting another GM, when Alex came on board, I had to go in and talk to her for hours and hours and hours to just, she calls me the corporate memory. I'm the only one that knows anything about this property because I've been here the longest. It's important. It's very important, and Mr. Pilgrim, I know about your issues here because I have some paperwork that I ran across. I've been at every single board meeting for the past 8 years except 2 I had a bad cold. Every one except 2. And I'm so glad you said you had 7 men, 5 days a week to maintain this property.
Absolutely. I have one guy for 5 hours, all he did was sharpen blades.
See, and I have 3 full-time maintenance men. I said 4 because I'm counting myself. I have 1 full-time cleaning lady for this whole facility. Sue here is part-time. One of my maintenance men is sitting right back there who works so hard every day. He can, most of the men that I've hired, thank you. They work hard, we all do. We give it our very best. I think we have, I know I have the best team I've had in 8 years. But I think, just speaking from an employee perspective here, Alex is, in fact, the real deal. She has, everybody keeps saying, have they done everything perfect? I don't know because I don't know everything they do. But I know in my department, they have helped me more than anyone else has ever done here. So it seems to be a really employee-oriented company. Every employee that works here that I know of, and I talk to all of them, we're all kind of friends, we all agree we need to give this a chance because we are going down a dangerous road here. Until today, when Mrs. Crouch said 14 employees are grandfathered in, I've lost sleep for weeks and weeks and weeks because I didn't know if I was going to have a job until you just said that.
Well, shouldn't First Services have told you that?
They don't know if they're going to be in charge, and she has told us all, as soon as we find out if we're staying or leaving, we'll get with every employee, we'll give you your options.
You didn't know anything about the grandfathered in. That Alex Fambry didn't know anything
I
about
knew that the rumor was because your husband talked to Smith Security one day, and Smith Security said, "You're not getting rid of Jackie, are you?" And he
Whose
said,
responsibility is it to
well,
give you information?
the board should have let us know, I
First
think.
Services?
Hey, First Service didn't even.
They don't know anything.
Get fired. How can you say that?
Just for the record, the contract says that they are grandfathered in if the current board wants them.
It's the board.
So it's the board's decision whether or not they keep these employees.
On the first week, let me just, okay, for 1 second. The first week of December, I know that my husband and Alex Crawford both talked to Dan and strongly encouraged him to inform the employees on what was going on because Christmas is coming and they have a right to know how things stand. They are your employees, please inform them. A week later, they learned that the employees still had not been informed, and again, Alex Crawford strongly encouraged Dan to do the right thing by his employees. And I know that because I heard the conversations. So the fact that the employees have not been informed, I think is a shame. But I don't think that was a board responsibility. Not when the board was asking Dan to do it, Dan Buckner.
Has the current board talked to the employees to tell them whether or not they were going to be kept?
Legally, may not be able to.
How did you hear the
They
conversation?
asked Dan Buckner to do that. They told Dan Buckner what their thoughts were and to let them know. The employees work for First Services. They don't work for the board.
But the grandfathered in ones are able to stay if the current board keeps them.
And Dan Buckner was informed of that, and he was asked by on multiple occasions, not just once.
Is that in a documented
When
meeting?
did the board of directors decide to keep the current employees that were grandfathered in? If the contract states that they can remain in place at the leisure, at the approval of the board of directors, when was that decision made by the board of directors? Bill Crouch and Alex Crawford going to Buckner and saying, will you let the employees know if the board has not decided in a meeting to retain those employees, how is that First Services responsibility when the contract states the board of directors must decide? When did they make that decision? Because I have not seen it.
I know that Dan Buckner was told on December 12th.
You're not answering my question.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm telling you what I know. Here is what I know. I know that on December 12th, my husband and Alex Crawford asked Dan Buckner to inform the employees. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I know.
Is when did the board of directors make the decision? They decided on December 2nd with 3 board members to terminate that contract. Did they, at that meeting, vote to retain the grandfathered employees?
The
answer is no.
Okay, well, I wasn't there.
The answer is no. So the board of directors has violated the contract. How is First Services supposed to know? You can shake your head, you can roll your eyes, but you are deflecting and blaming everything on First Services, and the people who made the decision are not accepting responsibility for the actions that they have set in motion. That is wrong.
I am sorry that the employees were not informed. I think that's wrong. I know that they were encouraged. I know that my husband and Alex Crawford encouraged Dan Buckner to tell them on multiple occasions. Now, please
not make that decision.
But I don't know that. I didn't know it was a board decision. I don't know that my husband or Alex knew it was a board decision. I don't know that.
Maybe they ought to get their
Wait. We need to be civil. If you want to speak, you need to come to the microphone.
I didn't mean to start that.
I didn't. Jackie, I am sorry that you didn't know, and I'm sorry that you were losing weight.
We've talked to First Service Residential many times, and we don't feel out of the loop by them at all. We just don't know what's going on.
I'm sorry.
We don't know what's going on. I probably shouldn't go on, but I just wanted to clarify too that we can use saws of all kinds except chainsaws. We use skill saws, wet saws, cable saws.
That's what I said chainsaws.
Well, and we can paint. We do paint. We haven't finished the outside of the building because, again, we changed boards. It was already approved. It's budgeted to be done. There's more to it than just painting this siding that's on this building. I maybe shouldn't bring this up, but I can tell you that the parking lot was board approved to be redone 2 years ago. We changed GMs, we changed boards. One of the board members didn't want to do it even after it was approved because members stood up in the audience the very night that we proposed. And it was 3 bids from 3 big companies. And as a matter of fact, the company that they awarded it to was the company that did the parking lot at the beach house, which is a great job. But a member stood up and said, wait a minute, this is what I do for a living. I do parking lots, and your parking lot doesn't need to be done. So they said, okay, no, we're not going to do it then. Well, one board member said, we're not going to do it then. So about 2 months later, because then we were going to start clearing the beach, so we cleared the beach by hand. It took us a couple months, and then when it was time to do the, let me go back. The same guy that stood here and said that came into the general manager's office about a month later and said, you know what, I actually went out there and looked, she's right, you do need to do the parking lot. Had we done that parking lot then, it was going to be a resurfacing. All those little cracks that all the flooding water went through and caused it to pop up and be the way it is now, wouldn't have happened. I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying because nobody sticks around and nobody knows what's going on from 1 minute to the next. We keep ourselves in this mess. The roof, been here for the whole time. It's finally fixed. I asked for a roof consulting company to come in when I was trying to figure out why it kept leaking. They would not let me get one. And thank goodness when FSR took over and they said, we need a roofing consultant to come and tell us what's wrong with the roof, they finally figured it out. It was the metal roof that was leaking, not the flat roof over the weight room, which as members told me when I started working here, honey, don't worry about it, it's leaked for 20 years. And I thought, well, I'm going to fix this. We just have to keep something common here. I mean, we have a lot of employees. I think there's 4 of us that have been here for longer than 5 years. or 6 years. 8, then 10, and 12. And our pool lady, our Marcia, 19 years here. I don't know how she's done it, but we all keep trying. We tell ourselves we're gonna make a difference here. I was very proud to get this job. I live over there, it's what I love to do. I've experience in it, and I thought I'd make a big difference. And up until a couple years ago, we were moving forward. And I think that maybe I shouldn't say anymore, because I'll get emotional, but I would love to be able to reconsider sticking with one company for just 5 years. Can you imagine what 5 years of everybody knowing what's going on here and trying to do the right thing? Nobody here is trying to do the wrong thing. Even the people I disagree with, I'm sure they think they're right, and I think I'm right. But I would love to be able to know that Monday I come back to work, and next month I come back to work, and I still have this professional woman as my general manager. I mean that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't go on like that.
I'm a little different than Jackie. I'm always right. I'm only kidding. I am.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am kidding. One of the interesting things is I don't know what's going to take place. You know, as a person, I'm just no different than you are. And, you know, what's actually going to happen, who's going to do the job here, who isn't. But earlier, I think you'll recall one gentleman that talked about the responsibility of the board and how they could not do First Services work, the agreement to the contract. And as far as employees, I think the employees, I might be mistaken, but I think the employees are actually First Services employees. They're not the board's, excuse me. Are they board employees or First Service employees? At Holly by the City?
They're First Service employees.
Right, and if they're First Service employees, my feeling would be that the notice would be given by First Service. And if they were asked to do it, they should have done that. I mean, you know, that's my opinion.
Pat, it was never brought up at a Board of Directors meeting. And again, if we have 2 board members that are going to upper management at First Service Residential without the rest of the board members' knowledge, to me that just seems like things are being done out of the sunshine.
And you may be correct, I don't know that part of it, but still, bottom line, responsibility of the employer to let the employees know. That's their responsibility and not the board's, my opinion. That's where the onus lays. And if they were told, let them know, you know, let your employees know, then I have no idea why the board should be expected to do it.
Senior Vice President at First Service Residential, who has responsibility for managing how many properties?
120.
He overlooks 120 properties. This certainly is not the first time that a situation similar to this has occurred. I would expect that Mr. Buckner would know both the terms of the contract and have gone through this before, perhaps with another facility, and would know how to respond.
Well, you think he would, wouldn't you? But it didn't happen.
But he didn't.
Apparently.
He didn't.
I just want to try to make this as simple as I can for Pat, because he seems to be missing a key piece here, that if First Services doesn't know what to tell the employees because the board has not made a decision whether they're going to keep those grandfathered employees or not, what are they supposed to tell them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This will be very quick. I think that as members, we should consider Jackie's unique view on this situation in a little bit heavier way. She's an employee, but she's also an owner. She's 2 things. She knows the inside, and she's an owner, so she has a vested interest. Think of that when you think about what we need to do here. It's clear that from somebody with the most probably experience and expertise in the organization is saying, wait, this is the wrong decision. Our board didn't even bother to consult with those people. They made a decision with 3 individuals, one that can't even show up.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Again, I for coming, and I see our crowds have thinned out a little bit. We're almost at 3 hours, and as you know, that's how long the board meetings go on. So, once again, thank you for coming, and again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email the board. Thank you.